Presidential CEO Forum is an initiative that is to play a key role in identifying the bottlenecks to the business and economic growth so that they are addressed by government working together with the private sector. The private sector is driven by Uganda First orientation. So everything we do as private sector is, what do you think about Uganda First? And that will be the best ideology for us all. So it's driven by Uganda First orientation to the developing of the economy, investments, industries, manufacturing, and export promotion. I'm glad that we have most of the agencies here with us today, and with time they'll be able to come out and speak to what they contribute to the private sector expansion and inclusion. The Presidential CEO Forum is committed to supporting the government agenda of private sector-led development. This has been a key call by His Excellency the President, who believes that with the private sector, if brought on board or on the round table, then we are able to see sustainable development and to move this country forward. On the next slide, we will look at the many, but I highlighted a few of the objectives that we stand for. We do promote the mandate of the CEOs in policy formulation and implementation through the private sector participation. And I will let you know in the late slides how. We do scout for opportunities from the private sector platform, thus complement government agenda towards promoting the good business environment. And this, we do not do it alone. We do work with some of the associations. As you've heard, the board is a rich board. It has a representation of the Private Sector Foundation Uganda. It has the representation of the Uganda National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, the Federation of Uganda Employers, to name it. So we also, one of the objectives is to understand how the goals of the National Development Plan 3 and Vision 2040 can stimulate economic growth. Currently, this NDP3 is being reviewed so that it can be more practicable. So we need to see private sector participation in this new policy. The other objective is to recommend accountable solutions to be addressed by government through streamlined structures. Most times when you come out to speak to government and say maybe they've not been able to present what they had promised to the country, what has been our contribution? So this is one of the objectives that will speak to that. To discuss constructively on delayed bills that affect the cost of doing business, to ensure adoption of private sector ideas so as to enhance service delivery. I think when the president, not I think, but I believe and we all know that when he swore in, the main key points that he mentioned, one of them was service delivery. And so it is also our role as private sector to contribute towards this. To champion the science and innovation-led initiatives for mass production. And so why the Presidential CEO Forum? This is a platform that we believe that, first of all, like I've mentioned earlier, we stand for Uganda First, but also in partnership with all the other initiatives that are already in place and the associations that are already playing this role in one or another. We are here to stand for continuity. We have a secretariat, and this gives us more hope that we are here to stay. The Honorable Minister of Finance is not here, but one of the government buildings is where we will be residing, and on the 10th floor, those who have some of those booklets, you will see that beautiful structure yet to be commissioned, so that's where we will be residing. So we are happy and we really appreciate the Minister of Finance for having actioned on that, but also His Excellency the President for ensuring that we have a place where we can carry on our mandate with no hassle. In the same faith, we do collaborate with the MDAs, that is the ministries, departments, and agencies. And this is done very well under the OPM, and that is why we have our Right Honorable Prime Minister. And like I've said, this event today to be successful, she played a key role, and she did everything to ensure that we are here today. And thank you, Right Honorable Prime Minister. We do commit to supporting the national development and to engage in constructive dialogue at both national and international forums. We have a solid structure, like you have heard already with the board. These are people who are already in the private sector as well as public sector, so they know what it means and what it will take to ensure that we have the objectives achieved. And last but not least, it's steered by the presidency. Some of the few achievements that I can share with you this morning, in the space of almost like 4 months, we officially launched, as we've already mentioned, and through Ruth as well, and endorsed by the President. It is a multi-sector holder board, the first presidential retreat with the CEOs, and here you are. Thank you so much for making the time. Thank you. Recognition by all arms of government and an uptake of PCF views under the Office of the Prime Minister. We will be able to relate and liaise with every ministry or department or agency to ensure private sector issues are brought in front of the decision makers and we get the right solutions. Participation recently in the Dubai Expo supporting the drive of FDI. PCF played a very key role in ensuring that we profile some private sector members who were able to accompany the President of Uganda. Some of you are here today, and you know the success stories thereafter. Last week, we were able also to participate in the Tanzania-Uganda Oil and Gas Symposium, and this was driving local participation. Ladies and gentlemen, especially the distinguished CEOs here this morning, the President's views about the PCF, and this is what he mentioned the first time he met with the board at State House Entebbe on 8th September 2020. He said it was a great initiative that will help in identifying the bottlenecks of business and economic growth. The forum will complement government efforts and towards lowering cost of electricity, interest rates, transport, among the other critical services. We will come with intervention to guide private sector by making them competitive and producing high-quality products at competitive prices. PCF is a platform that will champion the Bubu government policy and advocacy for the private sector. I'm glad I saw Mr. Benson Turambe here, who will be able to tell us more how best can we be in position to push this Bubu initiative. In conclusion, PCF shall endeavor to identify all key thematic areas that affect the private sector growth and engage all stakeholders to champion their improvement. We are here to identify pressing problems which slow down private sector development and conducting research and make scientific arguments. Foster partnerships between government and private sector. PSF also shall formulate pragmatic recommendations geared towards solving the bottlenecks that have hampered private sector, public sector working relationship. So if we're looking forward to enhancing the PPPs, this is where we come in. Facilitating CEO engagement with government decision makers. Enhancing productivity, supporting employment, creating and building a sound macroeconomic growth, and the country that is suitable. I believe Dr. Ramadan will give a highlight on this. More on just a brief of the KPIs that we're looking at. Number of regulatory requirements introduced in key sectors that affect private sector, that is business, registration, licensing, inspection, administration, compliance. The number of local firms participating in key government contracts like roads and oil sector. They just concluded Tanzania-Uganda Oil and Gas Symposium, where I know Mr. Ernest Rundo was part of the panelists. He really got to know what it means to bring private sector in such forums so that they can also lead the discussions. The number of international best practices, policies, and standards adopted and implemented. For example, the one-stop center for the business registration and licensing. The Uganda Business Facility Center, the building where we will be residing on the 10th floor. The ground floor will be having the one-stop center. And this, my prayer is that it will be that state-of-art one-stop center. So we look forward to advocating for such one-stop centers. I saw Mr. Ngatejiza here, this is your baby, and I hope you'll have proper recommendations for such. Also, part of the KPIs is to have an improved integrity among people, enhanced transparency and accountability, and minimize corruption in doing business in Uganda. It was intentional when I put those, the text of transparency and accountability in block, because that is key for us to have at heart. What do we mean by being transparent and accountable to this country, to ourselves as we grow our businesses? Ladies and gentlemen, that is my conclusion. The last slide just shows what it means to be in partnership for national development. That is a picture that was taken at one of our industrial parks, and it's really about the key private sector, most of you who are represented here, and if we join hands, I think the sky will always not be the limit. Thank you so much for listening. Looking forward to having key outputs out of this first ever CEO forum. Thank you for honoring our invitation, and please always open doors to us when we come knocking, looking for information that can better us and really facilitate our strategies and agenda moving forward. Thank you.